Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending today. Just going to give it a couple more minutes to see some more attendees join, and we'll get going. We'll get cracking. Let's give it. And it's 11:02, so we might as well get cracking. So once again, thanks everybody for joining today. Today is a quick webinar to give you some information on Payroll Bureau software, how to choose what kind of software that you're going to be using if you're a bureau or an accountancy, and then a quick look at how to ensure a successful migration and ongoing success of that particular piece of software. So I'm not going to be sitting here ranking or rating different types of software, different providers. That's not the aim of today. The aim of today is more to see what you should be looking for when you go out to market if you're looking for a new piece of software for your bureau or your accountancy or your large payroll team. So the agenda for today, what I'm going to be discussing today, is to have a quick look at the payroll landscape to see what's around. To look what features you should be looking for when you're looking for a new piece of software. Migration readiness and how to ensure that when you do take on new software that it is a success. Creating a framework, again, more about the success of adopting new technology, bit of change management there. Maintaining that success, and then how to measure that success. Just an introduction to myself and my organization. So I'm Russell Webb, Business Development Manager for Phase 3. Prior to payroll, I was actually in the British Army. Well, I didn't even know what payroll was. And since then, I've been working in payroll in a few different positions. I was manager of a Swedish payroll team. I managed enterprise client relationships, and now I'm in sales for the UK market. My team at Phase 3, we're an independent payroll, HR, and finance consultancy. So one side of our business, we run our payroll bureau ourselves. The other side of our business, we operate consultancy, helping organizations with things like integrations, things like choosing the right software for going forward, and general kind of health checks and system checks on what systems they're currently using. So we've been around for 20 years, and we offer managed services and consulting to a wide variety of businesses, both public and private. So that's a bit about me and my team. What are we here for today? Today, I hope to share some expert knowledge, provide some insights. I'll give some experience from our own system selection when we chose a particular software for our own bureau. But again, I'm not going to go into details about recommending or not recommending particular softwares. Hopefully, we can give some information about guiding your decision-making process helping to evaluate what to look for, and then obviously looking at how to make it a success when you do choose and when you do move, because we are quite experienced in helping organizations to move software. It's just some lessons that we've learned along the way. So I did a bit of research on what's available. If you look on the HMRC website, the government website, you can see that there's 167 different types of payroll software that's currently available, currently approved by HMRC. Now, some of these obviously are from the same organizations. A lot of these are very similar pieces of software. But if you're running a bureau for multiple different clients, different industries, different sectors, then having the right piece of software for yourselves is fundamental to your business. So, of these 167, many are specialized in certain areas. Many are, so some are, for instance, specialized in education. There are a few in there that are specialized in the gig economy, short-term kind of stuff. There are some that are more well-rounded. That are some that are for enterprise, better for enterprise, and not so great for smaller companies, and vice versa. So it's important to understand exactly what you need for your organization when coming to select one of those 167. I mean, there's probably a bunch more that are not approved, but obviously one of the most important things is to ensure that your software is approved by HMRC. There are 250 active payroll bureaus. So obviously there's a grey line between a payroll bureau and accountancy, because accountancies often run bureaus themselves. But from my understanding, there's about 40,000 active accountancies across the UK. Not all of them run payroll, but many of them do. Many of them run smaller payrolls for their teams, but they're still going to need payroll software if you run a payroll for one person or 1,000. But there are 40,000 plus accountancy firms and 250 plus active payroll bureaus that don't offer accountancy but singularly run payroll. So there's a lot of companies out there needing payroll software. There's a lot of accountancies out there needing to have this facility, and there's a lot of options. So the aim of today was to look at how to better make the decision. So I'll jump straight into features that you should technically be looking for when you're looking for your payroll software. So first things first, you need to fully understand what your current needs are. So you should have obviously a roadmap about where your payroll operations are working and what you're going to be working towards. Have you got a lot of clients in the pipeline? Have you got a lot of public sector things going on in the pipeline? Or what are you currently working with in terms of your current client list? That will dictate a lot of the features that are important to you. But as a general rule of thumb, I've put together these items that are probably quite important for you. So firstly, multi-user management. You want to have customizable access levels. There are people, if you've got multiple people in your payroll team, you don't want everyone obviously to have access to the same payrolls. You don't want people to see data that is not applicable to themselves. Obviously, limiting the amount of access to only strictly where it's needed is important. And know some of the systems and some of the softwares out there don't have the ability to use, you could call it profile filters. Some don't have that ability, but many do. So it's important to fully understand, if you're looking at a payroll software, what the security levels are and what the access levels could be. So security and compliance, obviously, in today's day and age where there's often cyber attacks and all the different data breaches and things like that going on, it's important to have robust data protection, because as many know, having that is trust with your particular clients, and losing that trust if you have a particular data breach can be is very, very, very hard to regain. So you want to know that there's robust data protection, that they've got the cyber essentials, for example, that they've got the SOC reports, that they've got ISO 27001 and 9001, and that they have regulatory updates to ensure that the compliance side of things is also updated. You also want to make sure that the software provider is not just handing over a software and saying run with it. You want to make sure that they are putting the regulatory updates in themselves, and that they're sending you the details, or that your payroll provider, if you're using different provider to the software, is sending you the updates in the for compliance. Because across the market, across the world, the amount of compliance changes is growing year on year. Processing capabilities. So, you don't want to be, if you've got, if you're running 500 pay slips a month, but you're running it through 200 different clients, you don't want to be pressing the go button 200 times. If you can do things in batches, if you can do simple payrolls in groups and automate things for automate the workflows, then it's going to be a huge time saver and a huge save a lot of the admin burden for you. If they've got some kind of AI infused within it, then it's also going to be a benefit for you. So ensuring the capabilities of the processing is extremely important. What are the capacities of the system? Does it match what you're currently working with? If you've got a lot of, if you've got some bigger clients where you've got thousands in a payroll, how long is that going to take to process? Is that going to be, take a day out of your time where you can't have anything else running on the screen, for example? I've seen some of the systems that I've worked with before can take a very, very long time for larger payrolls, which obviously kills anything else that you want to try and do. So ensuring the processing capabilities there are very important. Reporting and integration. So obviously these are extremely important when it comes to payroll, full stop. You want to have customizable reports. If the system that you're working with has got a report builder, that's even better. But you want to make sure that you're not just left to it, that the organization that shares this the software with you or delivers the software is also, during any implementation, ensuring that the customizable reports that you need are set up and that you're ready to go. And that you understand if there's a hidden cost behind creating new reports, and how often that you're potentially going to be doing that, so you're not going to get hit with any hidden fees. API connections are also important. Most companies now over a certain size want to connect their HR systems to payroll, reducing the amount of admin work, reducing the need for manual kind of timesheets. So if you can connect HR systems with Open API to your payroll system, it's going to be a benefit all round. So ensuring that the API connections are there. Additionally, larger companies also want to have pay slips that are fed back into their HR system. It's important for some companies now that they don't have multiple logins. So they don't want their employees to log into their HR system to book their time off and then have to log into a different kind of system to see their payslip, for example. If they can have that integrated, then it's a big bonus to everybody. For smaller organizations like the 1 or 2 or 10 people payrolls, that's not as critical, but having those API connections for your larger ones certainly is going to be a must going forward. So ensuring any software that you're looking at has got Open API and is quite important. Another few features that I thought of here to add is the possibility to white label the software. So, and not just white label, but also to customize it to your organization's brand. So I know a lot of the larger organizations will use software that's not necessarily theirs. They haven't developed it, but they'll white label it so it fits with their brand look and feel. It's also important to know if you can customize what you're doing, because you don't want your employees to log into a portal and it looks like a totally different company. So, having that ability to customize your payslips, to customize their portal to the same color scheme or white labeling altogether, it certainly would be a benefit. Self-service is also, and portals is also important. Gone are the days where we would be posting out payslips, but and most payroll systems that I know can email the payslips, but you need to have. It will be good for a software to have access to a portal where employees can see their payslips. And obviously that connects with accuracy, with the security and compliance side of things to make sure that the access to that is managed effectively. So these are some of the major kind of features that we would recommend to look for when choosing your next payroll software. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of information from any provider. Every provider out there is going to provide you with a full list of the abilities of its payroll system. But if you can match these and ensure that these are fully supported, then it's going to be a big boost to you. So once you've chosen the software that you want based on looking at the features that it's got, looking at peer reviews, ensuring that it does what it says on the tin, what you're going to need to look at then is migration readiness. How do you successfully move towards this new software and ensure that it is not a huge kind of issue at the start? So there are a few things you can do at the start to get yourself ready for any transition. So an audit of your current processes would be a good starting point. Review the existing workflows, documents, and special requirements. It's surprising how many accountancies and companies that I speak to on a regular basis that don't fully know the full scope of their payroll systems and the payroll process. And quite often it's left to one or two people in their heads to understand fully what they do on a monthly basis. So have it documented and fully understanding how everything works from start to finish is extremely important. That's also why it's important not to deviate too much from a kind of standard process. Obviously, some clients and some organizations require special adjustments, but at the same time, if you're making too many of those and those are all in someone's head, it could end up a bit of a mess. Data preparation, it's often a big headache when you're moving from, even when a company is moving from one piece of payroll software to another, is the data migration. So quite often, if you leave one particular provider, they're not going to be too keen to help you, cleanse your data and to give it into the right format to go to your next provider, because obviously they're losing the business. So it's important to take that on yourself to fully prepare what the data might look like. Quite often, some companies will give you what's known as a data dump, where they'll just put everything into one enormous Excel file, which obviously isn't helpful because you can't just chuck that into another system and prepare and hope it works. Quite often you have to format the data so that it fits what you're going to be working with. So getting that from your next provider, the formats that are required, can be a good head start for you. And then making sure that your data is accurate, which is cleansing the data, is also will give you a head start. Risk assessment. So this goes into, I think, more change management. So obviously you're going to have a big comprehensive testing strategy. How you want to, run it normally. It's difficult with bureaus to do a full kind of parallel run, but because there are so many payrolls there. But if you want to, in your strategy, choose perhaps some of the range of them of your payrolls, and then do a parallel with those, then that might be a strategy to use. But to have a full risk assessment would be important to look at every single kind of change that's possibly occurring and how to overcome any risks associated with those. It's quite an important change management function. So I definitely advise looking at that. And then timeline planning. So you want to create a realistic schedule for when you're going to be making the change. Usually, obviously, you'd look at when your current contracts with your current software provider would end, and then work back 6 months or 9 months, even if it's a bit more complex. I think the average kind of implementation, if it's been implemented for you, is about 6 months to ensure you can have two parallels at the end. But you've got to have a realistic schedule based on the complexity of your payroll. If you could have a shorter one, if you need a shorter one, it can be done. So these are some, excuse me, these are some of the ideas and areas which could help you in getting ready for any particular change. Excuse me. Creating a successful transition framework. I don't know why framework's written there twice, but creating a successful transition framework. There's a process here that we've used before, which is ensuring the implementation approach is fully planned out, have a calendar, set the right dates, making sure everyone's aligned on how it's going to be implemented, when the go live date is. Obviously that's important, and parallels before that, and then hypercare afterwards. There's also an option to not roll out everything at the same time. If you want to perhaps choose some of the more challenging clients that you've got, to move them over first and then do the next one in 3 months' time, or are you going to do it in a big bang kind of approach, which is the norm, considering you don't necessarily want to pay for two different softwares at the same time if you can avoid it. So running parallels, we ourselves have a process here where we advise and recommend two parallel runs whenever you're changing payroll software. So parallels are important. One of the ways that we do it is that we will do one of the parallels for you, and then you can do it yourself on the second parallel, so that you get the experience there. That could be an idea, but ensuring that the parallel running is completed is to ensure accuracy is important. You don't want to be jumping straight into a payroll and hoping it works, because it is people's money at the end of the day, and sometimes to fix these challenges takes a lot of effort. So developing a communication plan is also important, ensuring that everybody knows what they're doing, everybody knows when they're doing it is very important to ensure a clear communication plan. This also involves training, so ensuring that your team are fully prepared and able to use any new software that you'll be going for. So going back to the features, I think training is also something that we could add there, because ensuring your new software provider should provide obviously all of the training for you to be able to use your system correctly. And then documentation, ensuring that your documentation is up to date, ensuring that you can record the processes, and that you have the available information to be able to do what is needed to be done. So this is what we look at when we look at a transition framework. And then moving on to maintaining service excellence. So in order to make the transition a success, because that's what you want. The reason that you change software can be for a variety of reasons. You could be changing for cost, for example. You could be changing. I know that some providers, and again, I'm not here to name names or to promote or to distract you from anyone, but some providers in the past have changed the format of their system, and on them changing that, the cost has gone up. So I know that people often look at that as a reason to change. Sometimes they change softwares and it isn't as good as the previous version, or people perceive it not to be as useful for them. So in that respect, quite often, excuse me, in that respect, it could be a reason for moving. Sometimes people change software because internally you have changes, because you've perhaps brought on a lot of new clients, and your current software doesn't fit what you need. So that could be another reason. There are many, many reasons for changing, but what you want to change for the right reasons, and you want to make a success of that change. And it's important to to measure that success. So in order to do that, you need to maintain the service excellence. You can't just set up a new software and hope that it's going to solve all of your problems and run itself and be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, we can't hand it over to Skynet just yet. We have to do some work ourselves to make sure that our service excellence is there. So these are some of the areas that we perceive as being important in maintaining service excellence. Dedicated support team. So you've obviously got your support functions there, but making sure that during any transition and during a hypercare phase, that the team are able to provide additional support if there's any changes, perhaps on the client side as well. So they maybe go into a different portal to see their pay slips, for example, and you should be able to provide quick kind of answers to the client if required. Increased contact points. So if you've got a bigger client, for example, and you do monthly service reviews, perhaps if you've done them quarterly, you want to do them monthly for a little while, just to make sure the bedding in period is a success, to make sure that you can take away any teething challenges from any particular new clients. Adjusted SLAs. So, if your client is lenient with you, you can potentially ask them to adjust the service levels during a transition phase. Obviously, they don't have to, because it's your transition, it's not them. But if they're understanding of you, you could potentially look at modifying service levels, because they could understand that you're going to be in a bit of a busier period, and some things that aren't necessarily business critical can take a back seat, whilst the things that are business critical are looked at immediately. Proactive monitoring and feedback loops, basically ensuring that you've got, if you're using a ticket system, for example, or a CRM system, ensuring that things aren't getting left behind, ensuring that you're monitoring resolutions. Is probably important at this point to have one person who will be kind of project managing it, even though the provider should, if they're providing a full implementation, should provide you with a project manager and a project team. It's also important to have a project manager from your own side, from the client side, to ensure that issues are tracked, resolved within an appropriate time. And regular feedback channels. So this is between you and the provider, ensuring that you do provide the feedback that is required, so they can give the right service, not just in the future, but right now as well. So these are areas where we think maintaining service excellence is extremely important. So measuring implementation success. So as I mentioned a minute ago, you want to measure the success of your move, because you're obviously going to have stakeholders that are looking, that they've spent the money on the new software. They want to understand if it's a success or not. Have lessons learned kind of strategy there. So having a satisfaction measurement is important. Surveys are always a good way to work with clients. Obviously, you probably already use NPS, but having these surveys, if the client is largely impacted by the change, it's definitely important to make sure that they feel that you're listening to them as well. Efficiency gains benchmarking. So understanding, if the move was initiated because you wanted to be more efficient, you wanted to make gains there in terms of time and resources, it's important to be able to measure what those gains will be. So having metrics is important to understand how much time you've saved, how many buttons less have been clicked. So it's important to measure what it takes now against what it was taking previously in terms of resources and time, and then you can convert that to a cost, because obviously time is money. So you can certainly say there what has been saved by moving. That applies as well to the return on investment calculation. It will you can certainly put together an analysis of what you've spent on the new software and what the ongoing costs of the new software are versus other savings such as error reductions, time and resources, and increased capacity. So if you've got more, if you've freed up 2 team members, for example, by moving, then you've increased your capacity, so you can translate that into a return on investment. And lastly, continuous improvement. This means, once you've got the software up, your new software up and running, once you're bedded in, once your clients are receiving their payroll correctly, it doesn't mean you can just leave it be and hope for the best. You want to keep optimizing what you've got, keep looking at your strategies, keep kind of moving forward and ensuring that your system and your processes are refined and as efficient as possible. Things change in the market very quickly, so it's important to be reactive to that. Successful bureau transitions. So for us, I can give a quick example of what we went through. Again, I said at the start, I'm not going to be recommending any or discouraging you from going anywhere, but just to use a quick real life scenario. Phase 3, my organization, we implemented Brain Payroll for our own bureau about 5 years ago. And for us, we went out to market to look for, at the time, again, this is 5 years ago, the market has changed now. But 5 years ago, we went out to market because our bureau, we started doing payroll on our client software. So if they had, one of the major softwares, we would probably have someone experienced using it. So we could use your software. So we wanted to bring that in-house and have our own software to use. So we went out to market to find the right bureau software for us. We conducted a full kind of project, obviously, to find the right software. And for us at the time, based on the elements that we wanted, which was cost, security, integrations, and the support behind it, we found Brain Payroll, and we implemented that over a period of time. So some of the common challenges that we experienced for us, it was getting to know, obviously, a new system, getting to understand how the support system worked. Some of our support was based offshore. So for us, it was about building those relationships with our clients and understanding the best way that they could help us. Integrations was a challenge at the start because it was a fairly new part of their software, so it wasn't fully up and running yet. And we worked with them to help them to build that part. They had Open API, but it wasn't as simple as just connecting 2 dots. It was something that we had to work with them to build. So for us, there were a few challenges, but obviously with any challenge, any big software move, there are going to be challenges. Timeline, expectations versus reality. So it took us going on 6 months, I think, 6 months to a year to fully transition. We had our expectations at the start. It did take a little bit longer than we expected to fully become live and to fully bed in. So it was important for us to understand what the reality was when looking at the timelines. Retention statistics. So we didn't really have any clients to move over straight away because it was a new thing for us. So that's not really relevant. But if you're looking at your own software and you're moving to a new software package, would it be important to understand your retention statistics there? Long-term benefits for us were the major point in this because it allowed us to have a new offering. It allowed us to have our own payroll software that we could run payroll on. It fitted the needs, as I suggested a second ago, of what we needed in terms of cost, in terms of security, in terms of integrations. And we've been able to bring on a lot of clients onto this particular software, and we're still going with it after 5 years. We developed a great relationship with the people behind the scenes, so we've got that part of it working very well. So the benefits of it were exceptional for us. And with any software that you've got, if you can have a successful transition, if you can have a successful kind of strategy in terms of the change management of moving, if you can then maintain your service excellence, then you will receive the benefits that are agreed are of the reasons that you moved. So that was a quick brief explanation of a live kind of scenario that we've had, and there we go. Excuse me. So here we're talking about building a business case. So this goes from start to finish. As to I've talked about a few of these things already about why people move. You know, is it cost? Is it a change in your own circumstances? Is it a change in your provider? For any of those reasons, it's important to identify what the changes are, what the challenges are. Can they be resolved with your current provider, or are you looking now to move to pastures new and work with a new organisation that could potentially bring you the benefits that you're looking for? Gathering the requirements. So it's important to speak to multiple providers. We all know that there are, you know, snake oil salesmen that will tell you anything that you want to know about their software. But, you know, it's important to get all of the details about what they actually do provide, and ensure that, you know, going forward, if you do sign any contracts, that everything that you want there is listed in what they do, so you're not missold anything. But yeah, gathering your requirements is an important feature, part of it, sorry. Calculating the return on investment, so ensuring that the productivity saving is going to be there, and understanding what benefits you're going to expect to get over a 3 to 5 year period. Highlighting the risks, understanding what risks there could be with regards to delays. Having a backup plan is important as well, just in case, you know, the change doesn't work for whatever reason, the change doesn't work in the way that you expected it to. Having a backup plan. I mean, a lot of clients will end their existing contracts with the existing provider on the day that they go live with the new provider. So that presents a risk, because if there's a delay, how are you going to run your payroll for the time in between those dates? So it's important to have a backup plan just in case things don't work in the way that you expected them to. Stakeholder support. Having a named team for the transition will be very important to you. Senior stakeholders should be fully aware of what's going on and able to put pressure on both the provider and the teams themselves to ensure that the transition is a success. And develop an implementation plan, having a detailed roadmap where everyone understands what the resource requirements are, the timelines, the go live dates, mitigating any risks, as I mentioned a second ago, and all the change management that you need to make it a success. Last one now, so barriers to a successful system selection. So I've talked obviously about the things to look for, the reasons why people make changes, how to transition to make it a success, how to measure that success, and how to continue that success. But evidently, sometimes there are barriers that you should look at navigating. So these can be internal challenges. There are some teams that have used the same systems and softwares and processes for years and years and years and years. And within those teams, you can have certain people who are very reluctant to change. This is part of change management in terms of ensuring that those particular voices, those particular people, if you can bring them on board, you're going to stand more of a chance in having a successful change. So internal bias and technophobia can be a resistance. And if you've got a resistance to change, likelihood is if you make the change anyway, it's going to be a less of a success because of the resistance there and because of the people not being open to the change. You might lose people, which is obviously a challenge. So you have to factor that into the risks as well. Resource constraints. So understanding company-wide resources and what you're putting into the change. Obviously, time is money, and if you've got a team dedicated to the change, then that can cost quite a lot of money. And if you don't have those resources, it could put a lot more stress on certain individuals, or it could you can't dedicate your full time to it, and that could increase the risk of perhaps delays or things like that. So understanding what you're going to need is a big part. Process understanding. Not understanding the selection process. I see being distracted by bells and whistles. As I said, you can have some salespeople who will try anything they want, anything they can to tempt you to come over to them. But understanding, not being blinded by that, and understanding exactly what it is you're going to be getting, and having that documented will lead to more chance of success in any change. And experience gaps. If you've got a very new team who've never been through a change before, that can also be a challenge for your organization to move. It's a learning curve for them, so it can be good opportunity for learning. But at the same time, if you've got people that aren't understanding how a transition works and how it might affect them, they might have to do extra hours just to get this working right, then it can be a blocker to any success. So these are some of the barriers just to a successful system selection. So just to clarify that today, I hope I was able to provide some detailed information on what to look for and how to make a transition of your payroll software a success. I tried not to discourage or encourage you to look at any particular software, but at the same time, the aim here was to look at what you should be looking for, basically. So thanks everyone for your attendance today. Feel free to get in touch if you want any extra information about this. I'll share this with you afterwards as well via email, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your day.